right, as we continue our draft series, with the 21st pick of the 1986 draft, the Cincinnati Bengals select wide receiver Tim McGee from Tennessee. Who they? Who they? Was the chant on that day. What was that day like for you, man?
It was rather interesting because when leading up into the draft, I did not have any expectations that the Bengals would draft me. I was slated to be the first receiver off the board, but I did not work out for Dallas because at the time, Dallas, I remember my childhood idol, Drew Pearson, was the one that worked me out. And he wanted me to do a physical workout. He came down to Knoxville and he asked me to physically work out. And I just thought, okay, you want me to go out and catch a couple balls? That's fine.
Right.
He wanted me to do the whole thing, and I was like, no, I'm not doing. I'm not going there, brother. And he said, well, when that 19th pick come up, I guess we'll skip over you. And I go, that would be fine with me because I didn't want to go there anyway.
Right.
Yeah. So when I was drafted, obviously I didn't know the again Bengals was interested in me when they drafted me. I didn't even know who the coach was.
Right.
I knew very little, but you know how it is. I got drafted. It was very private. I didn't have anyone around. I was in my apartment. I had some press out in the hallway. And once
Okay.
I got drafted, I didn't even have an agent. How about that? I
Oh,
had no
wow.
agent. I was just letting the process take care of itself. Once I got drafted, I went to see my mom in Cleveland like 2 or 3 hours later from Knoxville. And
Okay.
I spent the weekend there and, actually hired an agent, Steve Zucker at the time. Actually, I met him in the airport and, then just started my career. But I played it really, really, really extremely private and low key.
Well, and that's the thing. You've always been like that. And as people see, we've talked to Solomon Wilcots and other people, and it's amazing how the draft has changed from when like you all got drafted to the fanfare, the spectacle, and everything it is nowadays. Uh, One thing that I know with you is at some point you were your own agent, correct?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And so you hear all the hoopla about Lamar needs an agent and this, that, and the other. Being a player and a former agent, what's your take on that whole Lamar situation?
Well, Lamar's in control of himself, and anyone that thinks differently just don't know what the hell they're talking about. And I don't care who it is. I don't care trying to advise another person. If you imagine this, you're talking about when I hear the criticism he faced on different networks and by different individuals and telling me what he should be doing and what he shouldn't be doing. Lamar Jackson is the CEO of Lamar Jackson. The
That's
only person that really, and no one's going to care more about Lamar Jackson than Lamar Jackson. No one knows what inside of him but Lamar Jackson. No one knows what he wants but Lamar Jackson. So all the speculations, all the speculators, all the opinions, they don't matter. So number one, they need to pretty much shut up, in my opinion. And as far as him having an agent, I don't. It's a NFL contracts are so simple. They're filling the blanks, and if you want 240, you get 240, and it's just now it's a matter of how you get it. It's not like baseball. It's not like basketball. You're not doing deferred comp. You're not doing addendums to the contract. You're going to get what you want to get when you want to get it and how you want to get it,
right.
and it's so simple. It really is. Now, from a marketing standpoint, I can understand since things hadn't gone that way where Baltimore has just upped the ante and said, here's what we're going to pay you. And now he's requested a trade. All you need is a marketing person, someone out there that can really listen. They don't have to negotiate contracts. You
Right.
can have someone as a conduit as long as they're not negotiating a deal, if he wants to gauge the interest. And besides, my last comment about Lamar is, what do you think is going to happen to Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow here in Cincinnati? They're not going to have to go through the same thing. So, it kind of makes you go, why is it that the Michael Vicks and the Lamar Jacksons of the world, they have to go through the extra step? Why is it's always that extra hurdle for them to get what they so deserve? And lastly, Brent, I'm always hearing about Lamar Jackson is not a say pocket passer. Okay, as much as I absolutely adore Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes, they're also not Lamar Jackson. So
Right.
why are we not talking about his assets opposed to labeling something he may not be as on a scale of 1 to 10. Let's say Burrow is a 10 and Lamar is a 9 or 8 in the passing game as far as pocket passer. Joe Burrow was not born with the DNA Lamar Jackson has. He is not the most excitable player when he's running. Lamar can beat you different ways. So I'm really disappointed in the national media. I'm really disappointed, especially former players. I'm really disappointed in their approach to it because he's broken the traditions on how things should be done, and I just don't agree with that.
And I always felt like that about Michael Vick. You are a once in a generation player, and they kept talking about he wasn't a pocket passer, and he tried to prove it. It's like, bruh, be who you are. If you're gonna go out playing your way. And as we seen, he did some amazing things. The same thing with Lamar. You know, for him to fall to almost the last pick of the draft for Baltimore to trade back up and get him, he's won MVP. Everything you can ask a quarterback to do. What's the problem?
Well, when you look at the final four quarterbacks that was pretty much could have gone to the Super Bowl and went to the Super Bowl, you look at Jalen Hurts. Then you look at the Lamar Jackson. So the style of play is there. That's what the NFL wants. And obviously, let's say it. We know they prefer a 6'6" pocket passer back there. You know, somebody that just can gunsling the football. So they find areas of criticism when athleticism is involved. However, here's the irony of it and the hypocrisy of it. The two top quarterbacks, maybe three top quarterbacks, if whether it's the kid from Alabama, Ohio State, or Tennessee, if they go anywhere in the top four, they all possess the same skills that Lamar Jackson has. And it's just asinine where, you know, sometimes you get these things where a player, like in this case being Lamar Jackson, he gets picked apart, and it's like, you go, wait a minute, I don't know if it's this demeanor, if there's just something about him that they just won't accept, and that's just unfreaking believable to me.
It is. And so switching gears just a little bit, you were an agent, and from an agent's perspective, excuse me, we know how it is. Like you said, teams say they'll pick your guy with the next pick, and they don't. What kind of jockeying, or what? Maybe not jockeying is not the proper word, but what goes on from an agent perspective on draft day?
An agent is on draft day. You're a data collector. And what you're doing is you're trying to play one team off the other. It's you're really trying to get inside the rooms where the coaches or whoever the powers that be, and you play games like, you know, I heard another team is going to grab my guy at 20 opposed to 20. You're picking 25th. If you really want to, you got to move in. So, you know, you're playing that game. And what people don't understand is this has nothing to do with negotiation. It has everything to do with lobbying for your client to be drafted, because what goes on in those war rooms, only few people know. And remember, it's just, you look at the Bengals, there's only one person in charge. You have all these people on camera, and you got to get to the right person to sell your guy. And sometimes they've already had their minds made up. So sometimes you have some pull, some power, some luck, some input, and then other times you just sit back waiting on your guy to get selected. And if you can move him up the board, that's great. But let me just say this, Brent.
Okay.
Getting drafted higher is not the best scenario. A good agent looks at fit. Where does my client fit? Where he fits in short term to long term. You know, like I got drafted, it was a perfect scenario for me. I had Eddie Brown, I had Chris Collinsworth, I had no pressure. So zero. So you know what the Bengals were thinking for me. Okay, third or fourth year, we're going to bring this guy's going to be our number one, number two guy. Well, it worked out for me. So you got to look at the situation in its entire totality. What's best for my client, both short and long term, and how do I extend his career? Because, you know, nowadays, Brent, it's all about that second contract. That's when you get the bag.
Definitely. And, you know, Tim, sometimes I think if you go in like the later rounds, I know now it's only 7, but at that point, it's almost like, don't draft me. That way I can pick the best opportunity for myself.
Oh, absolutely. You do not want to get drafted in the 5th, 6th, or 7th round. Yeah, you get a little bit more coins, but I'm looking at, I remember I had Ramon Foster one year. and he did not get drafted, and he was a little upset, that he didn't get drafted in the 6th or 7th round, because players wants to say your client, I got drafted by,
Right.
opposed to I signed with. So once we got past the ego side of it, now you can go out, and I put him with Dick LeBeau with Pittsburgh, and obviously he had a 10+ year career. So yeah, when you can, again, you can look at the rosters, see who drafted what, see if there's any availability at that position, and
Yes.
then find the best possible scenario for your client.
Because later in the week, they're going to hear from London Fletcher, who was undrafted. London played 15 years, and when I was looking up his stats, there was only one game he didn't start. He's the NFL's Iron Man. He played in like 250 some odd consecutive games and only missed one play in his whole entire career. And he went undrafted. So sometimes it works out the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, London and I are from Cleveland, the concrete jungle. So, yeah, it's a map. It's a mentality there. It's everything is grind. We don't get much in the form of glamour. So, we just put our head down, and I didn't miss much. I don't know how many games I missed, but I know it wasn't double digits
Right.
in my senior career. So maybe 5, something like that. Don't miss practice, and again, that's just the way we were taught in Cleveland.
I understand. Well, Tim, man, I greatly appreciate the time, bruh. Always good chopping it up and picking that brain of yours, because I know it's constantly going and analyzing. So thank you, sir.
I appreciate you having me on.
All right, man. Tell the fam I
All right.
said hey.
I will. You do the same.
All right. Later.
Mhm.